Hi, welcome to High Road to You, and this is Mark Stouffer coming at you for another lesson in life, and that is something that just always kind of bothered me. When I looked at the men in my life that just seemed to always live in this box, and I think about my grandfather. When he came home, he was on a ship, and obviously the quarters in a ship are pretty small, and when you're traveling around the world delivering oil as a merchant marine, he it was probably, in very small quarters. But when he came home, it was like, just in front of a TV and in a house where the TV was constantly on. And, it just seemed to me like extremely boring. And as a kid, I would be responsible for cleaning the entire house. My grandmother liked the noise of a vacuum. I had the responsibility of vacuuming the floor in a 5-bedroom house. And it's a shop vac, little small, 1.5-inch hose. And I'd always ask, can I use the other vacuums that, the push vacuums? She says, no, I like the pattern it leaves. And then she had this cat that was real hairy and it was hard to get the hair out of the carpet. And it was just torture. And the park was like 2 blocks away, and my friends would come over and ask if I could play. And she'd say, no, he was busy. And I spent a large portion of my life serving her, stuff, moving her stuff around. And it was just toxic, truly toxic, because, I was like 10 years old when I started to really, man up and say, how many sets of china do you need? And it was her way of avoiding all the toxic chaos that was happening. So when my grandfather was gone on a ship, they were shoplifting and insurance scams and identity theft and all that stuff. And so, but it was just this constant accumulation of things, and it never really made sense to me at all. So, but what I saw was when the men were around, it was just like they were in this box. They didn't venture out, and they didn't, see the world, if you will. Their universe was extremely small. And I think about 7 million men in their prime that are literally spending 2,000 hours a year in front of a flat screen. And I think about them in their box. Jordan Peterson says they're bottom basement dwelling losers. And, that's a little harsh, I would say. But the bottom line is, when I think about how easy it is to separate yourself from that at whatever age, wherever you're at in life, is that, nutrition is critically important. What you feed your body, feed your mind. Then physical and social activity every day is critical. With online, platforms like meetup.com, creative mornings, you can navigate into these circles of people that are actively involved in doing healthy things all the time. It's walking, hiking, cycling, surfing, fishing, even if it's just getting together to learn about something, startup companies, or speaking in public. Toastmasters, another international program, is phenomenal. So I'd say, it's not difficult at all to get out of the box and experience life on a different level. And here's the other thing too. If you go out there, you can always come back and sit in front of the screen, right? Or you could take your phone with you wherever you go and, find yourself, locked in on something that, hopefully is healthy, I suppose, but, as I kind of navigated my life and see men that, generally are married and unhappy and in sexless marriages, and, and they're miserable. And yet they sit in that box. My father-in-law, he'd work all day, come home and sit in his chair in front of a TV in this little tiny room. And it was so incredibly disheartening. And I just swore to myself that I would never find myself in that box. And so I've expanded my universe, and what's allowed me to do that is, I'm part of a travel group. And the conversations that happen and the stories that are shared as people are experiencing the world, in safe environments. And they're, it's almost like you're with a tour guide who's been there, done that, but they just happen to be people that are part of this travel group that say, hey, if you're ever going to go to China, if you're going to go to Europe, if you're going to ever do these things, I can tell you, how to avoid, things that might be out there that you should be concerned about. That includes Mexico. I mean, I've been in Mexico so much I can navigate the roads and the towns and where people should go, more or less for surf camp experiences. But even if it wasn't a surf camp experience, they can still go to these towns that are safe and that don't have a history of concern. My sister lives in Switzerland, and so she is like the tour guide of all tour guides, and she would be an amazing liaison. So I'm bringing this to your attention because I'm just saying that it's easy to get out of the box. It's not difficult to get out of the box. And if you find yourself, having difficulty getting up out of bed because you're anxious and depressed and, you don't have direction, it's not difficult to start looking into these things and making it a daily habit to it's nutrition, it's physical and social activity every day. And I don't care where you're at in your life. If you're breathing, you have air in your lungs, you can experience life outside of the box. So I hope this reaches your heart and your mind and resonates with you. And if you know anybody that is in this state, in this box, that you think that this would encourage and inspire, please forward it to them and live a life with passion and drive and resiliency. With that, I wish you well.
I thank you for watching this content and most importantly for being inspired and encouraged to take action. Nothing happens without action. I would highly recommend that you meditate every day as you walk, as you are being social in your environments, as you're nutritionally healthy, to manifest what will make a difference in your life. Share how you overcame, the dramas and the toxicity of your life, and not just holding yourself accountable, but holding other people accountable. And boundaries are constant, never ending. For every new level, there's a new devil. And you're constantly going to have to put boundaries on yourself and others and be accountable. Be accountable. So I hope that the content inspired you, encouraged you. There's a lot of links, a lot of resources that will help you overcome, build a foundation, and take the actions. Share your comments. Share your successes. Share those milestones, as small as they might be. And with that, I hope this message finds you well.